session for April the 21st.
Third.
It says 20, what?
April 23rd.
23rd. And so we call this meeting to order. Do you need to call the roll?
Yes.
Okay, call the roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Here.
Squire Blackburn.
Okay, we got trouble with this.
Squire Blackburn.
Just raise your hand. You hear?
I see.
Jay? Okay.
Squire Muller.
Don't see him.
Here.
Squire Tracy.
Here. Here.
Okay. Squire Booth.
Here.
Squire Moore.
Here.
Judge Wells.
Here. Okay. Thanks everybody for being here. Sherry, God bless you and your family. And as we move forward on this, let's all think about each other and how we can help each other through the needs that we all have here at this court and through our community. So with that being in mind, we are in strange and difficult times, and we're here to start the process before we get into the actual budget. I'm speaking. Is everybody okay? I'm continuing to speak. I'm not through yet. And so, Susan, I'd like for you to begin, if you would, after I make this statement, or after this, saying that this is a first step in the process of building our strange budget for next year. And as I say this, Susan, I think you can reiterate that these are times we've never been in before. Lambert, you and I have been on here for 20 years plus, and we've never seen any of this type of abnormalcy in all of our years. And so we know that as we make this budget, there's going to be changes as we move on. There'll be amendments during the year, and quite frankly, I believe, if Susan, you probably will too, that there's going to be quite a few amendments as we go through this process starting after July. So let's do our best to work together in trying to move through this very difficult process of trying to figure out what we can't figure out, basically, and that is we don't know what's going to happen with the revenues today, and we may not know for several more weeks, but we'll do our best to move through this process. With that being said, Susan, I give the floor to you. And
This conference will now be recorded.
okay, well, thank you, whoever said that. And then we're going to start with the Parks Department. The order will be Parks, Fire, Social Agencies, and if you don't mind, as we go through and we need to ask questions, I'm going to try to keep it in some type of order, and based upon our comments last time, I'll go in reverse order. That means that Lambert, you will go first, and Marty will go second, and then Scotty will go third, and then we'll go on down the line. So with that being said, Susan, you may begin.
Thank you, Judge, members of court. My condolences to Squire Sebastian. These are definitely unheard of times. I just want to reiterate what the judge said, that we are always in a process of teamwork at the fiscal court for financial responsibility and being stewards of the taxpayers' money. This is always a very critical time, for one of the most important things that fiscal court accomplishes together is building a budget. But this process is even more difficult than it usually is for making some sort of forecasts and prioritizing things for our community. Those challenges are certainly, we're all in this together for sure, come through this together on the other end with something. That being said, this is very much a work in progress. The draft that I sent you, I think on the day before yesterday, is constantly being updated with the numbers that you see on the screen, you will see that Charlie has entered some projections for the year end with an over and under. The overage is being positive, the under is being budgetary savings for the current year. Charlie's going to speak to his budget, but I just wanted to format issues to reiterate that the documents that you get, I'll try to make sure I note some of the changes, but we're just all going to have to be looking constantly to, if you have specific questions about some of the changes, I'll try to help identify where they are. We have incorporated narratives into the note column in the worksheet as requested by the court, in an attempt to try to further describe the description line items with maybe some details that aren't as obvious as maybe they could be for underlying reasons. So Charlie, this is your area departmentally for services, if you want to go ahead.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yep. Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Court. My condolences, Squire Sebastian. I did plug in some numbers this morning. I didn't get the document as early as you all, so I apologize if you didn't get some numbers on your first draft, but like I say, it's a work in progress. But if we're, I went through each line item looking for cost savings in the current year budget. If you see those numbers, I came up with around $31,000 for the park budget in savings. Some of those are estimates. Some of those are really close because we've had to lay some people off. With the majority of the savings coming in the seasonal and co-op part-time workers. The savings in the golf, on the golf end, I came up with around $16,000 to finish the year, less than what we would have normally spent. Does everyone see those two numbers in the 2020 over and under? And, we can go into each one in detail. And then of course for projecting for next year, we just put a flat line, move forward with the same budget that we have this year. So I guess if anybody has any questions about any of these lines, just let me know. Just come in or however, going whatever the order the judge wants you to check into it. Like I say, our biggest savings moving forward to end this fiscal year would be, our part-time workers, seasonal workers. We're going to save money in line items like utilities, because we're not going to be able to turn the water on at the splash pad, It's, we got to wait until people can get down and be together. So, that's just one idea. And then at other facilities that we have closed, like the Carter House, the Hancock Pavilion, these facilities have their heating and air turned way down, all the lights are off, just to try to capture a little bit of cost savings as we finish up this fiscal year. With that, I'll just open it up. If anybody has any questions, how you'd like to proceed, with this year as well as going into next year.
I will comment on top of with Charlie that the primary savings in the park area line items actually are in other equipment. There was a provision in the 2020 budget of $15,000 and only $1,200 of that has been spent, and Charlie said that any other equipment purchases will be halted for the current year, and as you can see, they're zeroed out in the 21 budget draft in that area.
Okay, Lambert, do you have a question?
No.
Let's see, Marty, do you have a question? Marty,
Yes,
do you have a
the
question?
interlocal special events, we're not having those. Is that right? Because we got a -5,000 in the budget decrease column.
Square Booth, that is correct, that's outside of Charlie's budget area, it's just appearing on the screen in the worksheet right now.
Okay, so that, all right.
Okay,
I'm satisfied, yeah.
okay, Scotty?
Yes, sir. Morning or afternoon. Charlie, quick question. In the utilities line item, I believe there was a transfer of some money to handle some utilities for, if I can remember correctly, for water or some other reason there was a significant payment or increase in that line item, but is it reflected in this new one in case something like that happens again? Or are you comfortable with going with the same line item that you had that you're currently operating in?
You are correct. We did have to cover some water costs in this current fiscal budget. We budgeted 30, and I'm comfortable with moving forward with 30. It's a weather related thing, it's kind of an unknown. We hope to not use a whole lot of water on the golf course, but at the same time we get into a drought, there we are.
Right. No, I'm just asking. And then you mentioned having to make some tough personnel decisions. We got notified this week that I believe Friday will be the last day for some of your part-time and seasonal employees at the park. Can you give us an idea of what type of savings you're looking at on that?
It's stated in, I guess, the column M, the over-under savings on the seasonal co-op for park at 9,200 estimated, and then seasonal co-op with the golf at 10,900 estimated. So those two combined, you're looking at $19,000-$20,000 in savings, and that's for the remainder of this fiscal year. We put the money back in moving forward, hoping that things get back to normal in the new fiscal year. So the same amount is in for the next year's budget. But that savings for this year, finishing up, we hope to, be able to capture almost 20 grand.
Okay.
That
Thank you. Next question is on maintenance for park. It looks like you've got in the draft budget that I'm looking at, it's 40,000, and out to the right of it, it's got notes, volleyball sand.
Oh, I see that. Yes.
Does that mean you're going to spend $40,000 on volleyball sand?
No, it does not. That means that volleyball sand will be captured in that line item.
What else are we looking? I know Susan's been adamant about trying to make sure we can capture everything, the big picture. What else would be captured in that, out of that line item?
Well, it's general park maintenance, so that's our bread and butter line item. We use that the most. We're constant. That's vehicle maintenance, grounds, landscaping, anything and everything. It seems like we use that line item more frequent than any other, just on our day-to-day, taking care of the park.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Michael? Squire Muller?
Yeah, can you hear me, Judge?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, good afternoon, Charlie, and thanks for presenting this. How, with the recent cutbacks with the seasonal and part-times, how are you actually gonna get the work done, I mean, what's your game plan as far as being shorthanded during the season?
Great question. We have intentions of taking our security guard that works at night and seeing if we can work with the sheriff's office. Maybe they come over and help kind of keep an eye on the park at night, maybe splitting up his duties, be it a couple days a week or doing four hours of maintenance during the day and taking care of closing up and keeping an eye on the park 4 hours at night. There's some discussions that we've started on that here at the park. So that, trying to capture some of his help. He does have some experience in grounds maintenance. So that's an idea. Other than that, the only help I guess that we'll get from a maintenance standpoint is, there's going to be less cleaning and detail work within the facilities, the Hancock Pavilion, the Robinson Pavilion, the Carter House, the Farm Bureau Pavilion. Nobody's going to be using those facilities, so there's less cleanup time on a weekly basis, I guess, as we go around from those, taking care of those on a day-to-day type basis. So we'll be able to do more mowing, weed eating, taking care of the grounds just to make sure it's maintained properly as best we can. And we may take some areas and maybe go no mow, and just maybe let it grow or mow it every other week or once a month, maybe some of these fields, maybe the disc golf area. I'm open for options as far as that goes. We do a whole lot, there's a whole lot of mowing and weeding that goes on out here. I mean, those are some things that we've tossed around internally here at the park with the staff.
Okay, thank you. And then one other question. We had talked, I think, briefly this year, about there's a couple hot spots as far as the Hancock Pavilion, and years ago, I guess there was some equipment stolen. Have you all looked into cameras? I know we had talked about that at one time. Do you by any chance have any of that in your budget for this year?
We have talked about it, and we looked at maybe going through Verizon. They seem to be a little more on the high end, so I'm just kind of been working with Andrew to see what some of those IT technology type ideas would be, even if we go, just something out of the box from Costco, all the way up to, using something that one of the other local organizations may use. Yeah, I've been in conversation with Andrew about that, about getting some cameras up.
Let me ask
We
Andrew.
should be able to handle that.
Andrew, do you want to respond to that?
We also put that in our safety grant.
Yeah, so we've been looking at it, and we applied for that grant to see the Homeland Security, I believe, that Ann was looking at. So, we're looking at it, but even a fairly small project is, going to be, some decent money. So, I don't know with the budget situation, if we don't get the grant, the Verizon option is most expensive, and that's not what we pursued with the grant. We pursued a cheaper option, but even that, it's a significant expense.
Okay.
Okay, no further questions. Thank you.
Okay. JW, or Squire Blackburn?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, yeah, thank you, Charlie, for getting booths today. I noticed also, you know, you're talking about the pavilions and the Carter House. You're down from your target about 34% on your rentals. It's only about $9,000 right now. That's significant because of having to shut everything down, isn't it?
Yes, very much. We anticipate more cancellations as well as if things don't get any better.
Now with graduation and all that, I think there's talk of graduation being in at least some kind of ceremony in August. So hopefully we can do an uptick on the beginning of the next budget cycle on that. But I just wanted to bring that up. I didn't have any other questions.
Okay. Squire Sebastian? Squire Sebastian?
She's coming.
Okay, sorry. She's coming?
Yeah, she's turning her mic. There seems to be some lag.
Andrew, can Squire Sebastian hear us?
I think her audio is really lagging.
Okay.
Judge, while we're waiting for her, Charlie, have you had any conversations with the fair board about maybe canceling the fair?
I have, just this week, actually, talked to one of the members. They haven't made an official decision yet. I would anticipate that coming up pretty quick because they usually go around and solicit, you know, donations and stuff from area businesses, and that may be tough to do during these times. So there's the talk, the possibility of there maybe not being a fair, but and then if the social distancing measure that's in place now is lifted, there's the possibility of maybe a Friday, Saturday night truck pull, that they're tossing that around a little bit. So that's the conversations we've had up to this point.
Right, yeah, I had the same conversation with some of us. Okay, thanks.
Squire Sebastian?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we've.
Okay, is it coming through at all
Okay.
now, my vocal?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it's come through fine.
Okay, thanks. So Lambert, or Squire Moore, appreciate you asking about the fair. I had that on a list to ask. Yeah, everybody's asked great questions. I did have one inquiry, Charlie, about the utilities. You had indicated that the utilities were primarily water. You know, I don't know how we can not water the golf course. So are there thoughts that you have? Because I know we're trying to reclaim water from supply. And the things to utilize down there. I could not understand the last part of Sherry's comment.
Yeah, I can't either.
It's showing her mic's muted again. If Andrew can bring that screen.
Sure, you're completely gone now.
You'll be able to see everybody, because I've got them on mine.
Tamara, you can't whisper, you have to tell him, I don't know what you're saying. Did you understand? I couldn't understand her either.
I don't know how we can recapture or cause that there. And you might have thought more than I do.
Sherry, we can't understand you. Sounds like banjo playing. Tamara, can she call in and do this on the phone?
So what do you?
Might be better off.
Yeah, if
Yeah, I would suggest that the audio calling method if she's having connection issues. Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll wait for, we'll ask a couple other questions, and when you come back on, Squire Sebastian, if you would call in, Does she have the number to call in?
It's in the group text, I'll resend
You
it
got
to
it?
them.
Okay, Tamara's gonna resend you a text on the number to call in, and then we'll have you on audio.
Okay.
And, so I'll go with another question. Charlie, and is Ann on the line? Is Ann on the line? Ann Northcutt?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, and every year for the past 3 or 4 years, we've put in money for a land and water grant for the sidewalk. Can you, for possible sidewalk, you're saying that we shouldn't do that? Charlie, you and Ann, I guess, have talked about that we're not gonna add that money back in there.
No, I will be, I'll have a resolution on our next fiscal court agenda for the recreational trails grant that is for that pedestrian entrance trail back to the existing trail system. What I can do and what I was going to suggest is looking at this year's budget, I can, because we won't hear about that until toward the end of the year, we can schedule that project construction to begin after July 1st of our next budget year, to make
Okay.
that easier to plan for.
That's great, that's great. Good thinking, Ann, thank you for thinking about that. So,
You're welcome.
so the next question for you, Charlie, while we're waiting on Squire Sebastian is, okay, the park's been open for a couple days now. Today's not a good day, obviously, but yesterday was a beautiful day, and Tuesday was a beautiful day. Did you get the signs up reminding people about social distancing and the areas that are closed? Charlie?
We did. We put up 10 signs. Some of those were area closed signs, and some of those were maintain social distancing signs. Just so happened that the brackets that the signs are on, the state wants those back. They're taking them to another testing site, so we have to take them back down.
Oh, gosh.
And remount them on other, and then put them back up. We're gonna make that transition as quickly as possible, so the signs are up, or they're not down very long. I've talked to the road department about making some new brackets, just like the ones that we're using that the state let us use, so we can keep them. We'll be able to use those brackets and change out signs for whatever project or event or traffic control or whatever it may be. They're very nice brackets because they're mobile. You don't have to drive them in the ground.
Good deal.
And we can move them around wherever we need them. So yeah, the signs are up, and the park definitely got some use over the past couple of days.
I was going to ask you now. Did you all were you all monitoring were people adhering to what we're supposed to be doing, keeping our distance?
Thus far, we saw no problems up to this point. The only concern that we've heard from was initially, early in the week or over the weekend, the skate park got a lot of use when it was actually supposed to be closed, but we worked with the Sheriff Wire in his office on handling that group.
Okay, good. Squire Sebastian, are you on yet? Squire Sebastian's not on yet?
Not yet, give her a minute.
Okay,
It took me a minute to find the phone number, sorry.
okay. Are there any other questions for Charlie while we're waiting on Squire Sebastian? Any other questions? Okay. Well, Charlie, while we're here, I know I've got a couple more. Did you ever get anybody to fix the rest of the skate park? You were looking at getting somebody to do that. Did that come about?
It has not been fixed, replaced yet. I have met with a contractor, and they're putting together a bid, or quote, I guess I should say.
Okay.
Any day, sooner the better. I call them every day.
Good deal, good deal. Okay. All right, well, we're looking forward to getting the park reopened, hopefully in the near future. I saw where Squire Sebastian just came on, I think. Squire Sebastian, are you on?
I am, can you hear me at this point?
There you go, yes, you're sounding good. Okay, you go ahead and ask Charlie Lewis what questions you have.
Okay, I think I had a couple of questions in addition to great ones that have already been asked by the members of the board. I did have one about the park, but I think Lambert may have asked that. I didn't hear the answer, but I could circle back to that, that's okay. Charlie, I did notice in one line item that, where it had, Lakeview Park, and I was trying to look at that now, a full-time equivalent and a seasonal in that line item. I'm trying to remember where it had Lakeview Park salary. So is that,
Yes.
seasonal, or one part-time, I'm sorry, that one's coming out as well, that one will, that person will not be working as a, I just want to make sure I understand.
That is correct, yes. Yeah.
Wait a minute,
That's it.
okay, we need to clear that up, Charlie. That's just for the time being, where that's not for next year's budget though, is it?
That's right. That's for the remainder, just like the rest of the season, the remainder of this budget. Unless something miraculous happens and we're allowed to bring back seasonal and full-time people before the end of this fiscal year, I don't see that happening.
Okay.
So yeah, that's that one part-time on that first line, and then the other seasonal and co-op, all have been dismissed.
Okay, is that in effect now, or is that something that will be going into effect?
Betty?
The four, we've got one office assistants, two seasonal maintenance guys, and one golf seasonal maintenance. Those four that we've hired, or that were still on the payroll per se, their last day is Friday.
Okay, thank you. And I did want to ask a question about the utilities line item. You had mentioned that was primarily for water. What I was asking, I think, as my phone was acting up, or my connection, where I'm in a more rural part of the state, and the connection may not be so great down here. That for, if we have a really dry, spring, and obviously going into the summer months, which will be the new budget that we are discussing as well in general, that really poses a problem for us, because with the golf course, you have to water it to maintain the grass so people can play. So I don't really see an area where we can make a reduction there. And maybe I'm missing something, I don't know, but the other things are in that line item besides water. If that's lights, and as the days get longer, we rely less on those, but don't utilize as much energy to burn the lights there. So maybe you can clear that up a little bit for me, if you don't mind.
Yeah, on the golf utilities, that does capture more than just the water. The golf shop and the lights at that facility, and then of course the power to run the irrigation down at the pump house. So it is more than just water. In my projection, I put it at 30, just as it was for the beginning of the fiscal year. Hoping that we can maintain that. The good thing about the irrigation, of course, it's raining cats and dogs right now, but if it does get dry, we have the capability to run the irrigation system individual greens and tees and fairways at a time, so we can create a reduction.
A video conference support.
So,
Squire Booth, if you would please.
Andrew muted her.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Charlie, sorry.
So yeah, we have, we do have some control over the water uses, I guess.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. I was just trying to get my arms around how much additional is in that utilities line item. And after this call, if it's okay, I'll certainly be about the fair. Fair board members reach out to me about the fair, so I just want to see what you've heard and see how on the same page we are on certain things. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Now Lambert will come back through. You're next, Lambert.
Yeah, Charlie, would it be possible in the field area to let somebody cut that for hay? I know that's, a lot of people be wanting it. I don't know how we would pick who would get it, but, would that be a possibility?
Now, that would be, I think that's a great idea. We tried that once before, and I think I got in trouble because I did it the wrong way, but, yeah, how to pick who would get the right, so to speak, to come and do it, that'd be the only question. As far as letting it grow, absolutely.
The only problem I have with that is one year we did that and you mowed it right before the fair and it caused a fire hazard to people parking on the fresh cut long grass, but as long as somebody mowed it for hay, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But like you said, we'd have to
Yeah.
have a lottery system for somebody to get it in a legal way.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
That's all I have.
Okay,
Yeah.
Squire Booth. Squire Booth, you have a question?
No, I don't have a question. I just wanted to say that I think Charlie's doing a good job with the golf course, and evidently it's more used than the city's golf course at Juniper Hills. And we should make some money to make up for what we've lost, but it depends on the weather, like he said, yes. I sympathize with your problems, Charlie. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Squire Tracy?
Yes, Charlie, quick question. Have you heard anything from golfers that have purchased memberships along with carts? Have you heard anything from those guys or gals in regards to not being able to use carts?
I have had one request for reimbursement, and that is all out of the, I want to say 30, close to 40 types of memberships, I guess, that we've sold up to this point. There could be more coming, but so far we've been pretty fortunate. There's just been one request for cancellation.
Okay, thanks. And then on your, I noticed where you've got, for the golf course, you've got 9 part-time. How is that broken down between golf shop and what I would call maintenance? How many are all
One is maintenance.
So 8.
One is maintenance. 8 are golf shop range type workers. Yes.
Thank you.
And before I go to you, Michael, we are going to, at some point in time in the near future, we're going to open the golf course back up and the park back up, I hope, knocking on wood, with God's help. So we're going to have those people back to open up to run the golf shop. Is that correct, Charlie? Charlie. Okay, never mind. Let's go on. Squire Muller.
Hey Charlie, thanks again. I have two questions. First one is, where do we ever end up with lighting the other softball fields?
We have put that into the hands of the folks, I guess it's ESG doing the energy audit.
Okay.
They're supposed to be getting us a price.
Okay. And then just, I'm not Debbie Downer, but I talk to people from all over the country, and I noticed your budget's the same as last year, but our economy might not be there. So I guess just closing remarks is, I guess looking forward, we probably need to be thinking of how we could trim stuff down even for next year. Maybe it's mowing and like you said, using the gardeners to help with mowing and things like that. So I just want to throw that out there because I think that's a reality. But thank you for everything.
Okay, Squire Blackburn?
You're welcome.
Squire Blackburn? Okay, Squire Sebastian? I'm sorry, somebody asked a question? I heard you.
This is Susan.
Yes, okay, go ahead, Susan. Go ahead, Susan.
Yes, Susan, we hear you.
There's been a lot of discussion about the golf course budget. I want to point out that the budget figures that are in our worksheets and on all of our reports, most of our reports are our budget as it is right now. And Charlie did ask me about the transfers, and we just didn't have a chance to clarify that. So for the golf course maintenance, that $35,000 that is budgeted, that is the budget transfer amount. So we started the year with $30,000 budgeted for maintenance, but we needed another $5,000, I believe, was requested by Charlie to cover chemicals and to provide space for the other maintenance requirements of the golf course. So that 35 was not the original budget. It was 30,000 to begin with, and the 5 was added, and the same thing on the utilities for the golf course. It was 25, and another 5 was added. So we do have additional history, and I've got there's a 2019 budget and 2018 budget numbers on your worksheets, so you can see what the trend has been for those actual budget numbers, if that's helpful.
Okay, good point. Squire Sebastian?
Yes, thank you. So I'm going to kind of chime in along with Squire Muller about, we continually hear we do not know how long our economy is going to be impacted. And certainly now, Lakeview Park has been reopened to walkers, joggers, and those who are going to walk the golf course, maintaining social distancing across the facility. Our primary income there in regard to the golf, I don't know how we're going to necessarily, obviously we're not going to hit budget targets for the remainder of the year that we're in. I think it's all pretty clear to us. And we're launching into, a new budget year here shortly, where, revenues, are already going to be impacted because the quarter we're in now, receipts that come in for things carry over, and a lot of them are paid in this next quarter. So, Charlie, have you given any thought to, if you had to, take a 15 to 20% cut across the board in your area, where that can be achieved at? And if somebody's asked this question, I apologize, I'm sorry, if that's already happened.
Squire Muller just asked it, Squire Sebastian. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. So what was the answer? What was the answer?
Okay, Charlie. Go ahead, Charlie.
If the golf course remains walking only, and we're not allowed to open the shop and obviously turn on the cash register to collect revenues, the seasonal co-op workers that work inside in the golf shop won't be needed. So that $43,000 line item for seasonal co-op would be hit tremendously. We would like to hire the 9 part-time workers we have up there. One of them's maintenance. We would like to initially bring them back, but if we have to maintain that social distance order, then we won't be able to open up the shop and hire those people. So you're looking at, maybe $35,000 right there that will not be needed in next year's budget. It just, there's some unknowns there, I guess.
I'm going to be under the assumption, Charlie, I think.
We'll be buying a bunch of concessions and merchandise for sale because, we can't open the shop to sell it, so.
I'm going to go under the assumption in the hope that sometime in the near future we will be opening the golf course back up. Don't know when that will be, but I feel strongly, but not 100% sure, that it will happen before July. Let's put it that way.
So if I can add just one more statement, and I made this at our last court meeting, having dealt with budgets before, I know we are, or at least in my case before, it was easier to budget on the lower side so that if revenues that were unexpected came in and you had, it's much easier to amend the budget and put revenue in rather than to go back and start cutting out when you're in an emergency situation. So that's the reason I asked the 15 to 20% if we're looking at that across the board with everybody. So unfortunately, I'm going to be like a broken record and ask that one every time.
Okay. Thank you, Squire Sebastian. Are there any other questions? We've gone around twice. Are there any other questions for Charlie at the park? Any other questions? Squire Tracy.
Quick question, and I'm not sure if Ann is still on the line or not, but I know that Ann was working in regards to the softball facilities and the lights. Ann was working with someone from KU. Ann, by chance, did you get all the information that young lady was requesting from you? Did you get all that information back to her?
I've been in contact with her and have put her in contact with the gentleman with ESG that's doing the utility plan for those lights. And so we're still waiting, as Charlie said, ESG is still coming up with that lighting plan. And then she is well aware that that information will be coming to her so that she can see how Kentucky Utilities can assist in that project.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Once, Squire Blackburn.
Yeah, I was just going over the numbers. We've touched all around them on the park rentals, the golf cart rentals, the golf concessions, the driving range memberships, the green fees, and right now we're about almost $65,000 short of our projection, and that's considerable. So hopefully, like you said, they're going to open up soon and we can recapture some of that, but 65,000 short is a lot in this short of a time span.
Understand. Bad times. Any other questions? Hearing no other questions, let's move on. Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate it. Keep the park going and make sure everybody that's out there keeps this right distance. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, the next,
Will do. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Be safe.
Yes, sir. You too. Okay, Chief Hutcherson, are you around? And Susan, are you around to get the Chief Hutcherson going about the fire department?
Good afternoon, Court.
Hey, Chief, good to see you.
Believe the, what you have in your possession, I believe that to be our budget narrative. That was presented on March 10th, and since that period of time, a lot of things have changed. My understanding is that, Susan is presenting a continuation budget. So unless you'd like to ask anything about the budget narrative, I believe we probably should move to what is being presented today.
We can go, Susan, do you want to say anything first before I go through the line of questions, or Chief, do you want to go into more detail and then we'll go to questions? I don't care, however y'all want to do it.
Judge, I don't have any presentation for the fire department. There were a couple of questions by the magistrates that had been answered on the spreadsheet. One of the questions by Squire Tracy was how much overtime is built into some budget lines.
Yeah, the fire is automatic.
But there's also, I think, a lump sum of $40,000 that is typically built in. Is that right, Chief?
Cheaper, what's that number? Yeah, that's right.
So
40,000, correct.
And then the other request by one of the magistrates was, I think it was Squire Muller, is what does 15% cut look like? And I believe there's that total is on the spreadsheet to show if you had a 15% cut, what that number would be dollar-wise.
So we're,
For information purposes.
we ran some numbers on that, and it'd be somewhere around $777,000. Right, cheaper?
Okay. I don't know where we're going to cut $770,000 from the fire department. Thank you for sharing that. Okay.
No, 83%, 83 point something other percent is salaries and benefits.
Yeah. Okay. Chief, you want to talk about as we go down the line, administrative staff, you got 3 full-time, and that's what you're not asking for more on these notes, are you?
No, sir, we are not.
That's just telling us what you've got. Is that correct?
51 firefighters.
Okay.
That run 3 different shifts, 17 per shift. Very little extra there, just enough to cover sick and vacation. Usually, as the way it works out, somebody is jumping from one station to another to cover whoever took a vacation and whoever took a sick day. When those numbers reach that point.
Okay.
Incentive pay, that's basically for any unscheduled overtime. Let's say we did have to hire overtime for that day. That person, that would not be regularly scheduled overtime. So that individual would, it's required by the worker people. It's required by them to pay that little bit of extra money there. We actually, unfortunately, ran over, or are going to run over this year. So we had advocated for that to be increased to cover that little, what is it, $200 extra? 200, 600, Steve? 500, somewhere in between. Okay, the next line, incentive pay, that's actually a pass-through. We showed it as an increase originally on the budget narrative. However, everything has come to a halt, and we don't anticipate before the first fiscal year that increasing. Even though it does not play an impact on the budget we show it in order to show money coming in and money coming out. The state pays that money.
Okay.
Maintenance and fleet repair, well, that one's out the window now too, but we had reduced it in an attempt to get a mechanic, which we need very badly. But that one has changed from what is on the screen also. General supplies, I mean, it's the supplies that are required to keep 6 stations operating as far as cleanliness and things of that sort, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The linens, and I could probably touch on some of our projected savings, but I'll save that for the next sheet if that's okay.
Okay.
The linens are things like wash rags, grease rags, towels, so on and so forth. Equipment and machinery. Now we actually changed this line this year, and this will reflect in the new budget or the continuation budget. Last year we had everything lumped into there. Susan has directed us to leave this or change this 441 to disposables for machinery supplies. And there's a new line at the end, 739, which will be equipment that lasts more than 1 to 2 years. Office supplies, it's more than just markers and papers and things of that sort. We also have some subscriptions that come out of this that pay for our copy machine, the monthly charge on that, and several other little things. Protective clothing, that's our upper gear, our ballistic vests, our helmets, excuse me. I get a little dry there. We're on a rotation. This gear is only has a 10-year lifespan, and if we don't continually replace that before or as it reaches its date, we will be in trouble with those people that get you in trouble. Plus, our firefighters will not be safe. For other products, this is anybody's guess, but I know the price of fuel is considerably different than it was a month and a half ago. I've been documenting that. It's kind of amazing the differences that have occurred. We do not show any projections on that. However, it's possible savings for our department and the county. Uniforms, we require our firefighters to present to the public in a particular manner, and we do have a uniform stipend. That's not changing. As far as the price, it went up a little bit last year, but that was because of all the new hires that we had to bring in, and that money is not accounted for. There's just only a small portion set aside for new people, and when we lose, retire, whatever else, and have new individuals come in, we do not issue them somebody else's uniforms, because most often they won't fit. Registration, training, and conference. There's much more than training. I'm a big advocate of training in this, but also our required OSHA physicals come out of this line. There's certifications that are required to meet the interlocal agreement with the city They come out of this, the EMT classes come out of this, which would require all individuals on the Franklin County Fire Department to be. So it's much more than just, oh, that's a lot of money for training. It's pretty tough sometimes to make this money go far enough, but we believe that we can comply with that. Insurance, that's I don't usually put that line in, but Susan does, and I hope that number is the same as it was last year. I do not track that. Telephone and data, that's much more than just our telephones. It's some of the data is mixed in with the can't be split because it's Frankfurt plant board, and you get one bill for it all. But most of it is the hookup from McAllen for our faxes, the trunking. There's considerable amount in there. Plus our MDTs, mobile data terminals, which we run in our trucks and sends information to us while we're out to the scene, whether it be location or mapping or GIS information or patient information. All of those are all the same data. So that's what they're doing. Utilities, it's been a good year for utilities. It runs 6 fire stations, plus our administrative, which is in the same building as a fire station. The building maintenance and repair, I don't know whether Jeremy's out here or not, but just 2 days ago, we've had Jeremy, thank goodness for him, trying to patch Industrial Park and Orton Road's fire station, heat and air systems back together to keep them up and running. I know, well, I don't know, but I wonder, where the energy thing will go. But I do know these heat and air systems are just about ready to give up the ghost on 3 or 4 of our stations. Equipment repair and maintenance. We have a lot of equipment because we provide a lot of services for Franklin County, which I'm very proud of. The guys do a wonderful job. And it requires money to maintain that stuff. Things break, as Squire Moore knows. Let's see, fire equipment. Not all equipment lasts forever and needs to be replaced. So that we were talking about the disposable items. This is the line 739 that we moved, things that need to be replaced, like air packs, SCBA, which we wear in the fires to protect the respiratory system of our fighters. This is that line. And our equipment is aging. We're lucky enough to receive most of those air packs from grants after 9/11. So you can guess how old that stuff is. Fortunately, we have some talented individuals, Assistant Chief Brewer and Tyler Ratliff, who we sent to school up in Ohio to patch these things back together. So thankful for their volunteer to do that. It's no extra pay, but they're greatly appreciated. The next line is fire hydrants. I believe we're getting, if we can get it on the ground, we're getting 2 hydrants in Squad Tracy's district, and one down there on Georgetown Road, which is both of those are going to help those residents within that span considerably with their insurance rates. And plus it'll be a great service to us Lord forbid that we have to fight a fire in those areas. So, they're important, they're life safety.
Squire Tracy, can you just hold your question, Squire Tracy, until we come back around, let him finish, if you don't mind, okay?
Yes, sir. I just want to say the fire hydrant on Georgetown Road's been installed. It was installed a couple days ago.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent.
That's great.
I drove past there, a week ago, I guess, and they still have the flags up. Well, it might have been 2 weeks. Time is running together here, but, a busy time that we're in. I will touch on the capital projects, and I realize where those possibly, might go. The ladder truck's already been, signed for, contractual, and there are stick penalties, for, backing out of that. Plus, we need it. I know money's tight, but the 2 new brush trucks, I think we can patch what we have together till we can see financially of what we're gonna be. It might take a motor for, brush truck 8. It's in really been rode hard and put up wet. But moving on to another capital project that, you probably may or may not see in the budget is the generator. It's a 1958 model, real classic. Squire Moore would probably love it, sitting out there on his farm. But it is bit to dust. It will no longer is no longer able to be repaired unless we could send it up to the vocational school up there, and they could work their magic on it maybe. But it's not producing electricity anymore, and it's what keeps that station operating when, you know, those rough nights and inclement weather. So it's very important. It's critical infrastructure. We tried for a grant for it, did not get it. The money was not available. I suspect it'll be some time before any of that money is available. Questions?
Okay, let's start, if you don't mind, with Squire Moore.
Where was this generator you're talking about?
Station, Schweitzer.
That's what I thought. No, I'll stand by for now.
Okay, Squire Booth.
I'm interested, and I want to know more. I don't understand how it's presented, and you need to fill me in on the tracking. That was part of the, part of the phone, telephone fire. What is tracking and why is it needed?
Tracking.
It's probably your computer service for 911 on letting you know where things are. Go ahead, Chief.
Square, we have computers which are linked up with our dispatch. And as that information comes into dispatch, like don't take Evergreen Road, it's closed, that information would be relayed to us. Should be. Additionally, things change as an incident progresses. They're no longer breathing, CPR is now in progress. And we need that information to be able to decipher, what our action plan will be when we arrive on scene.
Oh, wow, that's very important.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for telling me.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Squire Tracy.
That's all.
Squire Tracy.
Thanks, Chief. Just a couple questions. I know the treasurer's been adamant about getting as much information as she can in regards to projects and stuff. So down at fire hydrants, do you have a list of locations where hydrants are needed?
I have one that's on our radar. Squire Sebastian and I have been working on that one. It could be very helpful for those residents in that area if we can nail down that water line. But do I have a long list? I have not compiled a complete list.
Okay. My next question is the building maintenance repair. Looks like you spent about a third of that. Maintenance repair. It's like about any of that, if by chance the county decides to go with the firm to do the ESG firm, any of that maintenance repair, is that included in the work that they would be performing?
That is correct. If we could get those heating and air units replaced in 4 or 5 out of 6 of our stations, I think that number could be reduced. However, you got to understand these, or should I say, I want to inform you that these stations were built pretty much one right after the other, with the exception of the one that I'm currently in right now. And the roofs are, we've got 2 leaks that we've, 2 different stations that the roofs are leaking on right now. I've got a guy at Industrial Park actually doing a quote, even though there may not be the money to do it. But it'd be nice to know what it's going to cost us if we go down that road.
Right, and as you're aware, I've brought up the building facility, so in those meetings. Would be
Squire, you're going digital.
basically, it's like I said, I'm just asking what would be covered under that part. So obviously, it's like you got 1/3. Excuse me.
You're breaking up, Squire Tracy.
I can't hear.
I was just asking in regards to the maintenance and repair, as far as, obviously there's 2 more months, so we're almost at May now. So I guess there's 2/3 of that line item. Do you see it, you've got 2 roofs. Are those going to be addressed this budget year? Is that your hopes?
Can we throw some black money on it and make it last into the next year? We probably can. As far as the heat and airs, I can't tell you on that. Poor Jeremy worked 4 or 5 days on that one at Orton Road to keep it going. So.
Yeah, he told me
I'm not
that
asking
it
you
was
that.
shot.
What I'm saying is you've got 2 that line item available. Can they be addressed? As far as the heating elements for the drives, for the shop area, have those pieces of equipment been purchased?
You're talking about the heat and air systems for the fire stations?
But yeah, like I said, I'm not asking you to put rubber patch or whatever you call it over top of the roofs. What I'm saying is you've got 2/3 of that line item available. Can those problems be addressed? And back to the heating elements that you mentioned on, have those units been purchased for those?
No, we have not purchased any units. Jeremy is patching them back together, and we're waiting on ESG, I think, whatever that acronym is. We were waiting on them to replace those. As far as the roofs go, we do not have any immediate plans to replace those roofs, but we do have a guy giving us a quote that he should be on the roof as we speak.
Okay, so I guess back to the comments you made, are you just going to put some black rubber patching on top of it? Is that what your intentions are?
That's correct. Until we can see where we're at financially. I think it's a responsible thing to do. But it's coming down the road. We will need to replace those. They're 20 some odd years old.
Okay. So again, with the additional money that you have right now in your current budget, would that be sufficient to address those problems, or do you not think that would be enough?
Squire, I'm definitely on metal roofs. I'm no expert. If Jeremy is out here, maybe he could weigh in, but I really don't have a clue. I suspect it'll be a commercial building like that, my guess will, one roof, could exceed or reach 10,000. But, I don't know that to be true. That's a removal and a replacement.
Gotcha, okay, all right, just asking. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, before we go to Squire Muller, Chief, and Scotty and Court, next week the department heads and all of us are gonna sit down and talk about how we can save money to get through the remainder of the year. And that, we'll have Jeremy at the table, we'll discuss all of that to try to give a little bit better guidance on what we should and shouldn't do, what we should spend money on now or wait, we'll see. So that's a great point, Squire Tracy, and thank you, Chief. Now, Squire Muller.
Okay, Chief, how you doing today?
I'm doing okay, Squire. Yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. Hey, listen, I appreciate you going through it and kind of breaking everything down. Susan started out by saying, I'm looking to cut 15%, and that is true, but not for first responders. So I just wanted to clarify that. As far as continuation budget, I think you are in line. So is the sheriff. I think we're going to have to figure out our savings elsewhere. So I just wanted to kind of make that statement and thank you and all the first responders. The only question I have, is there anything this year that will come up for bid? I know in the past you've had calls looking at the uniforms and different things like that. Is there any opportunities there that we could try to get some people to sharpen their pencils?
That's a great point. I think you've been looking over our shoulders. I anticipate you'll see a recommendation on this next agenda for accepting a no increase cost for a bid that we would go to bid for this year.
Okay, thank you. That's my only question. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Squire.
Okay, Squire Blackburn. Squire Blackburn.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all you all do. The first responders, I wanted to mirror what Squire Muller said, and making cuts to our first responders, I think that'd be irresponsible. But I do appreciate you trying to save money. I know you mentioned the roof being a metal roof and 20 years old. I haven't seen it, but I would hope that the material was a 50-year roof if it was metal. But anyway, not spending that money that's in your line item right now, saving that money until we need to, I think that's the smart thing to do. And I appreciate that, and hopefully other departments are doing the same thing. So I don't have anything. Scotty touched a lot of the bases, and I think we're all on the same page, so I appreciate you.
Thank you, Squire. I appreciate it. And if you want that challenge for the 1958 generator, just give me a call.
Okay, Squire Sebastian.
Don't sit by the phone.
Okay, Squire Sebastian.
Thank you. And I would have loved to have put that 1958 generator in my dad's hands. I can tell you right now, he would have been super up for that challenge. I'm looking at a couple of things here, and I'm just trying to get my bearings because I'm looking at this on my small phone device as well as this call. So the line items are typically tiny anyway, but they are super small right now. So Chief, in regard to the protective clothing and the regular uniforms that fellows wear, it looks like we're kind of under budget under that. Do you think that is a typical spending pattern? I usually have a lot of material with me, and I can call on things from 2 or 3 years back because I try to source it, and I'm just not able to kind of see where we've typically been on line items like that. And I know you said something about, certainly we want everyone protected, absolutely. I'm just looking at those areas to see if the budget is just, a little bit more than we've been expending so that we could potentially capture some of that for some of the other expenses you've been talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
And if I don't understand it, that's, I mean, you know, if I'm not seeing everything, it's just because I'm looking on an extremely small device.
I understand, and condolences to you for your loss.
Thank you.
The protective clothing, we usually, and I don't have the 4 or 5 years in front of me, past years, but we're usually pretty close on that line. We do not spend it all, and we had anticipated when this budget was done at the beginning of the fiscal year, we had anticipated purchasing all of our ballistic vests because we're a couple of years ahead of the curve on our firefighting gear. So we figured it'd be a great time to purchase that NFPA 3000 required ballistic vests and helmets to go to, and they don't like the term anymore, but I can't remember the other term, to respond to an active shooter incident, which unfortunately seems to be more and more every year. Just when you think it can't happen again, it does. But that initially was what that was for, and we worked with Ann to put in for a grant, which we do not know whether we'll be successful or not. It's one of the first years that firefighters have ever been able to put in for ballistic vests and helmets. So we got our fingers crossed, but you know, grants, and especially the times that we're in, who knows where that will go. We would have to go run the numbers. I'll have to look at our firefighting rotation gear, which I've been trying to work on for the last 2 days, but when we don't have all the input or the time to input as we update that stuff, we're missing like 6 helmets right now that we need to put into the system. And otherwise I'll be able to produce a document showing our gear rotation and when and all of it runs out. And like I say, since I returned in 2013, this has been something that we've worked on as a department to ensure, you know, 1 year is not going to cost you $75,000 replacing people's gear, to space it out. So that impact comes every 2 to 3 years, if not every year, somewhat.
And thank you, and I appreciate that. I'm kind of looking at I'm wondering about the regular uniforms that folks wear. I don't know, do you guys go through 2 pair of boots a year? Do you go through just pretty typical wear and tear daily without putting on the firefighting actual protective clothing and apparatus? You know, is there a tremendous amount of wear and tear on the typical uniforms and the need for multiple pair of boots and gloves and that kind of thing? I just don't have a sense of that. So I'm just kind of looking at that part of it. Like
I can tell you.
where I'm sure they're not, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I don't know what those uniforms are called, like the blues that you all wear. You know, I don't know how to phrase it, so I'm just kind of looking for a little bit of information about how frequently, you know, that rotation has to work through so that the paints aren't threadbare and that sort of thing, and the boots aren't worn out, wearing out people's feet, etc.
Exactly. There's not a lot of fluff in that budget line. I just and I know I try to save my pretty pants, or however you want to call them, my good-looking pants. I try to save those for those public meetings, those interaction with the public, because at the end of the year, and I get the same striping the firefighters do. By the end of the year, my uniforms look pretty shabby. So if you see me wearing an old faded pair of pants and I didn't think I was gonna see you that day, but, yeah, it takes every bit of that $500 stipend to get them to the next year.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, are there any other questions for the chief concerning his budget at this time? Squire Muller?
It's not a question. Chief, did I hear you right? Are you saying that generator around here in Schweitzer has gone bad or is going bad?
No, it's been out for 3-4 months. How long, Chief? Yeah. So, we're without a generator out there right now.
If you would like, and Squire Moore will know what I'm talking about because I beat him out at an auction years ago. I have a large military generator that will run 3-phase that is literally just sitting here, diesel powered. So if you'd like, I can take it out there until we figure that out to use.
I would recommend that you work, or we, or however, work through Mel or Michael to make sure that it will work, because we had one down at the road department that we thought would work, but it wouldn't work. So I think we need to make sure electrician, before we do any moving, we make sure that the electricians can verify that it will work. Okay. So if you're offering, we'll go to Robert and ask them to one of them to get a hold of you to check on that and see if it'll work.
That's fine, Judge. It's on a trailer and it will run a small city, so it's a big apparatus. So yeah, Jeremy can just give me a call and we'll work it out. If the chief, if you like that.
Tim, you get that?
I'm in, Squire. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that offer. Are there any other questions for Chief Hutcherson? Okay. Hearing no other questions, thank you, Chief. And once again,
thank you, Judge. Thank you, Court.
Thank you to all the firefighters and all the staff at the fire department that keep us safe. We appreciate it, especially during these very difficult times. Stay safe. Okay, I should have said as we're getting off, today is one of the administrative assistants at the fire department, Don McDonald's birthday. So, Chief, happy birthday to Don McDonald and tell her best wishes for her birthday. Okay, with that, Ann, can you come on? I know
Yes, sir.
Are you video or are you just audio?
I'm just audio.
Okay, that's great. We can everybody hear Ann okay? Thumbs up if you can hear Ann okay. All right, that's great. All right, Ann, we've got the social agencies, and you've had requests, and I think if it's okay, I will go through the line and let anybody speak on any of them, and then we'll go through and one at a time and go through a vote. So if I'll start back at the same line that we were going through with Lambert first. Are there? You have the sheet in front of you, the subsidy request. Ann calls them, and you can ask Ann any questions concerning any of them that you want to ask. If you have any questions, Squire Moore, you're first.
No, I haven't looked through this very much yet, Judge, so go ahead.
Okay. Squire Booth. Squire Booth looks like she's left the scene, okay?
Judge, I would say I wouldn't be for any increases anywhere.
Okay. I was going to say that too, but I was going to let you all talk first. But Squire Tracy.
I'm looking through it as well, Judge.
Okay. Is there anybody? Okay. I don't have. Okay. Is there anybody that wants to say anything? Squire Blackburn.
I've been looking through it as well, and I noticed the DFI, the event that they had last year with the Urban Fest.
Yeah.
Bourbon on the Banks.
Bourbon on the Banks?
The dinner they had, the VIP dinner they had was a fundraiser for KSU, which 6 months later they did give KSU a considerable amount of money, which was one thing. But they had mentioned that was going to be a fundraiser for DFI now, and I'm curious to see how their funding ask might be affected by that.
Okay, we can, if you don't mind, why don't you call, Dr. Wallner about that, would you?
I sure
You
will.
can ask that question, okay, because we're not gonna be able to bring them in to talk about that, so that would be a question directly to them. Squire Muller?
Hey, Ann, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. Hey, I had a question. I was out with Melanie Josephine's social party yesterday doing some things, and she was telling me, her organization is run a lot on grants and things like that, and she's hearing that a lot of the grants are just being shut down because of the money situation in our country. Could you just touch on that a little bit? Because, that's what you do. Have you heard that also? And what are your thoughts as far as moving forward? Because if we take grants, out of a big part of our budget, that could really hurt us.
It's in a state of constant flux right now. We're seeing some new programs crop up, like the CARES program, and of course all the bills that are going through the Senate and the House. I haven't seen any direct information on some of the arts grants yet, although I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure the federal government is seeing the same sorts of revenue deductions that we're going to be seeing, on a grander scale. I would imagine that's a possibility. I'm not seeing that in terms of first responder grants or, for example, FEMA grants, although those may be restructured for different needs.
Okay, and then, I guess I'm gonna sound like a broken record, looking at the budget, just because of everything, do you kind of have a game plan if we need to cut, like a 15% or something? I'm sure you've thought about it. Could you share any of that with us?
Of course, the amounts allocated will be, up to the court. One of the things that had gone through my mind is because some of the agencies, of course, these all came in before our current situation, and some of the agencies had planned to use their funding for programming and increasing programming, and of course some of those things are on hold right now. So depending on what the court directs me to do, I thought one thing that might be appropriate is to have them submit some more information on, in lieu of programming, what they would be spending any funds on, or, in whichever direction the court directs me to go with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Squire Blackburn? I'm sorry, Squire Sebastian, I'm sorry, Squire Blackburn's right. Squire Sebastian?
Unfortunately, I'm not finding that material on my phone, so I'm not able to weigh in at this point on that. But Ann, I do appreciate all the things that you've done for us and are doing for us in this regard. And one of the things, and maybe in that material, there are discussion points about what the entities are wanting to do with their funds. So perhaps, can we see that? Like I said, I don't have it in front of me, so.
I'll have,
If they could cover it.
Squire, I'll have Ann read, we'll go through line by line, and I'll have Ann read what they do, the narrative, so that way you'll understand.
Well, perhaps, Judge, rather than bonding the meeting down with that, I'm happy to get my hands on it when I can. And that'll give me time to digest some of that, and if it's okay, I may ask you some questions at that time once I do get my hands on it.
That'd be fine, thank you.
And where I want to pivot with this, Ann has a lot of resources through grants that she's gone to year after year. Unfortunately, in these times, our opportunity to raise funds is going to have to be a bit more creative through maybe association grants and things like that. So, and I don't know if you've been able to source out some maybe different or atypical sources for funding for county agencies that have come to us and said, like the fire department and the ballistic vest. When we went to Washington, you know, you and I sat down and spoke with someone specifically about that, out of the potentially an atypical source or, so I'm wondering how that process is working for you, looking through atypical sources for things now.
It's something that we're going to, I think, be looking at more and more. For example, as the chief explained, this year the AFG program started allowing requests for ballistic vests for firefighters. And so we've taken advantage of that. I've also been looking at some private foundations and trying to see if there's some of those that we could take advantage of some of their programs, or some of those programs are on hold at this time. Also, whenever I receive grant information that's not something that is something the county could use, if it's something that I feel like one of our agencies can use, such as the women's shelter, then I'm forwarding that information on to those agencies so that they can perhaps look into funding for their mission.
And I appreciate that. And I know at one point, and I'll use this example, I had found ran across this with the Gary Sinise Foundation, who said, with things going on, that they had opened up their window for potential funding for things. So that's something that's atypical for us, and I know, Ann, you were going to go ahead and look at that and see if there was anything that we could source out of that, even a small amount. So
yes, actually, I did submit a request to that foundation, and they typically award quarterly. So the end of the first quarter, we're just getting past that, and so I'm hoping that maybe we hear something from them. Although I would imagine that they're going to receive a landslide of requests.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm with you. It's just, like you said, looking at these atypical sources that are going to have to come into play potentially more, because there is so much of a drain on the resources at the federal level now through the opening of programs that had been more of a narrow scope before. So I'll just lay that out, and then I'll follow up with Columbus. And so that's what worries me more, is that some sources that were good and stable sources that we've gone back to multiple times at the federal level, their resources are going to be smaller and smaller, which is going to have to force us to be, unfortunately, more creative and compete with others that we've really never had to compete with before. So
that's very true. Those programs are, for example, Homeland Security this year, they always choose several areas of concentration that they would prefer that the grant applications come in on. This year, one of their concentrations was on security of facilities. So our grant application addressed that goal through the perimeter fencing for the jail and the cameras at Lakeview Park. So I'm really trying to tailor our grant applications to best fit what those agencies are saying they want to see in any particular grant year.
that's excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ann, and I'll look forward to circling back with you on this. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Sherry, I just emailed you the packet, so it might be a little easier for you to find. If you'd want to take a look at the last few pages, that's where the social agencies are listed.
Okay, now that Squire Sebastian has that, so Ann, if there's any questions as we go through that they want something read, if you would read the narrative on each one of the entities. We're going to start with CASA. And CASA last year got $20,500. They're requesting the same for this year, the CASA program. Everybody okay with that? Keeping it the same? Y'all gonna need to speak up. Everybody's gonna need to speak up because we're going through one at a time. This is tough. I know it's tough. You got,
Judge, I'm just gonna be able to speak for myself on this.
that's all we ask for you to do.
To open it, just getting this to open it, it's gonna be very difficult for me to weigh in literally with about 2 minutes of information on this. So I'm gonna apologize to the court, and I know when we circle back, I'll probably be more well-versed in reviewing this material, okay?
Okay, so we're gonna continue to go through. You speak up when you want to, and once again, this is a draft, so this could be changed, but we'll go through it one at a time. And anybody speak up. The CASA program, recommend keeping it the same. Squire Tracy's, yes, sir. I'm listening, Squire Moore.
Yeah, I would say for now, leave it the same.
Thank you.
If things don't open up, we're gonna have to revisit all of these, but for now, yes, I say leave it the same.
Thank you. I appreciate if people speaking up, if you would. Next one's Coalition of Committed Christians, the Soup Kitchen. They requested 20. Last year they got 13.
Leave it the same.
Okay, if you don't say anything, I'm moving on. The next is Downtown Frankfurt. Last year they got, they're requesting 12,000 and they got 8.
I'm gonna give them a call and ask about that fundraiser and see how that'll affect, if they have that.
Well, I'm sure they're gonna still need this, but that's, are you gonna make that, the fundraiser contingent upon what we give them? I'm not sure.
Well, I don't know that it'll be contingent, but it'll help make a more informed decision.
Okay, anybody wanna keep it the same?
Judge, quick question. Would it be possible, I know we've got a brief summary here from DFI, but would it be possible to give a mission statement? The turnover of new directors, obviously don't participate in the Main Street program anymore. We get emails, monthly updates from Ms. Bradshaw at KCDC. She looks like she's highly involved with recruiting businesses to downtown Frankfurt. Would it be possible to get a mission statement, what their goals and vision is for DFI?
Well, it kind of says it right here, but in its narrative, but I'm sure it's possible to get a mission statement. Are you all wanting to? Are you going to vote on the monies? Squire Moore, did you recommend they stay the same? I'm sorry.
Yes, I'll just give a blanket statement. I don't want to increase anything. If
Okay.
anything, we'll decrease some, but I don't want to increase any of it at this time.
Okay. Well, I mean, we can save probably. Seems like the way things are going, an hour's time if everybody's in agreement with that.
Well, we've got 15 minutes, Judge.
Okay. All right.
I agree with Squire Moore.
That.
We leave it the same. I don't know. I mean, I have been involved with a lot of the entities that are asking for help or funding, I should say. And I would just rather leave it the same. And especially after hearing the golf course, they can't open their golf pro shop. I mean, they can't take money. Or we have to help them.
Okay.
We have to help the fire. We have to help our departments.
Okay.
So we need to just leave this the same.
Okay, there's one thing that we put in there last year, and we kept, because we thought we were going to use it and we're not using it. I only bring this one up. I concur, I'll leave it the same except for downtown Frankfurt events. We've got 20,000 in there. You take that out and there's your 15%, Squire Muller, real quick.
All right.
You okay with that? Squire Muller, you okay with taking 20,000 out? for events?
Hey, Judge, let me ask you this, when will we be, we're not voting on this right now, we're just going over it, correct?
That is correct, but we have to have this as a framework for our budget. We need to,
Okay, understandable, all right, thank you.
are you okay, Squire Muller, Squire Tracy, anybody else, in taking the 20,000 that was in there for Frank Fest or any other event out? Because it's not labeled, there's not a particular event in there. You want to leave some in?
I'm personally I'm fine with taking it out, but that's not to say that no one else will be affected by cuts. So I'm fine with taking 20,000 out of the county event.
Okay, all right, there's one. Squire Moore, you okay taking the 20,000 out? Blackburn is. Muller, are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, Judge, and I think like Squire Tracy said, I mean, that's not to say, I mean, I think we need to go down this list, but, I think we need to, I hate to say it like this, but we need to worry about what we're responsible for first, and then figure this out. But yeah, I understand we need to get something down, so yes, I'm fine with taking it out.
Okay, so the way it looks like, we're going to keep everything in there minus 20, which the total, Susan, the way it looks would be 133. Save $20,000 in that line. And Ann, do you see that the same way I do, Ann and Susan, or Susan?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Any other questions? Any other questions? I'll take any questions on the budget, relating to the budget. If you want to ask any other questions relating to the three items, or actually I'll bring up the next meeting before we dismiss our next meeting. I'd like to have another budgetary meeting at 3 o'clock next Thursday before we meet at 5 o'clock for our regular meeting. So that would be next Thursday, April the 30th, I think. Is that right? For a 2-hour budget meeting before we go into our regular meeting. Next Thursday at 3.
Judge, our regular meetings tend to go 3-4 hours. Would it be possible to do it not right before our regular meeting? That's a long time to beat and bang. Can we switch it to a different day or something maybe?
Either that, or we could cut we could cut our meeting short, but I think you're more right than on letting it go so long. So yeah, we can. How about Thursday morning? Let's come in at 10 o'clock Thursday morning. That way we can.
No, thank you, Judge.
I'm sorry. Too many people. We couldn't hear anybody what they said. We just heard mumbling. So I'm sorry if comments. If you'll let us know or speak up, Squire Muller.
I'm fine if we want to do a budget meeting Thursday morning from 10 to 12, and then we'll have our other meeting 5 till whatever.
Okay. Can Rick do it on Thursday?
He's on there asking.
Rick, can you come in on Thursday?
Yeah, yes, sir. No worries.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Everybody okay with Thursday at 10 o'clock? Thursday at 10 o'clock. Thumbs up. I see thumbs up. Okay. Are there any other questions about the budget? Any other questions about the budget? All right. Hearing none. Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Mm-hmm.
Do we need a motion to adjourn? Is there a motion to adjourn?
What?
Squire Moore, second by Squire Muller. Okay, thank you. All in favor, thumbs up.
I can't see Sherry's thumb, so can we all say aye?
All right, thank you. All right. Thanks, everybody. Be safe. Good job.